Well, one of them, there are so many entertaining and amusing and scary stories to come out of all this, but I want to play you the Turquoise Mountain saga, which is a guy called Rory Stewart, who's a blogger, a podcaster, hates Trump, of course. Turns out his wife was getting money through USAID. Just have a look to him protesting about the money stopping, and then we'll see what the money was going for. Just have a look.
Stopped. Doesn't matter, you have a contract. So, Turquoise Mountain, which my wife Shoshana runs, has a contract, had another $1 million to go. Money just stops.
Does anyone know what it is?
Już mogę sobie powiedzieć, yes.
I don't expect the ladies to know. Exactly.
So, Natalie, I don't know what's funnier, the fact that the money was turned off or what the money was being spent for. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm getting PTSD to the 4 years of Joe Biden where I was very embarrassed to be an American. So thank you for playing that. But, I think you have to look at it sort of broader in the idea of what the Trump administration is doing, right? There's a lot of media meltdown right now over the idea of abolishing, for example, the Department of Education or getting rid of USAID. And that is because to its core, and I think the MAGA movement represents certainly a deviation from sort of the old school traditional GOP Republican thinking and approach to this. Of course, the same people who lectured us for decades how much they care about, fiscal solvency and sanity. Well, where were they on trying to get rid of USAID years ago? They were absolutely nowhere. They were running cover for it. But it's sort of the idea that you actually cannot reform these institutions because they're designed for corruption. They're designed for waste, fraud, and abuse, like you just witnessed. They're designed for wokeness. And if you extrapolate that out to sort of the broader, more global stage, I think there's this idea that the concept of what it has sort of become to mean to be the United States of America is this country and our tax dollars being wasted, being abused for projects just like that. And the American people are fed up. And I think what you're witnessing is sort of an abolition or just sort of getting rid of the idea that to be an American means that we have to be, frankly, subject to this sort of globalist ideology that our taxpayer dollars have to go to every corner of the earth. And this idea that soft power is rooted in wokeness and far left progressivism, the transgender drag shows, the transgender musicals, the drag queen story hours on the military bases. The world does not want that. The American people don't want that. So I apologize on behalf of our country because it's our sort of woke cultural elites that push that on you guys. But that shows you that we're reforming what it means to be an American abroad.
Absolutely. Well, if you didn't do your fine arts degree, she was actually showing a toilet there, Marcel Duchamp's famous toilet urinal, to Afghani women to teach them about modern or postmodern art. I mean, I don't know what was worse. But you're absolutely right. That stuff has to come to an end. Now, what's also hopefully coming to an end is the war in the Ukraine. Now, this has caused all sorts of people in Australia. They're all there tearing their hair out, going, what's going on? Ukraine didn't start the war. Russia did. So all sorts of people are getting very upset. People who previously supported Trump are now going, this is craziness. My take on it, Natalie, is that let's wait and see what the final, where it all settles down and what the final deal is before we criticise the deal-making process. But what's your take on it, Natalie? Has Trump gone off the rails on this one, or is he correct to be in the approach he's taking?
No, absolutely not. And I think here's the thing. For 4 years, we had a president who was essentially incapacitated. And no, I'm not just talking mentally, but by conflicts of interest when it comes to Ukraine. I'm talking about Burisma, the business deals that his son was pursuing. So this is the first time in 4 years that we actually have the leader of the free world, the president of the United States, who's able to not just assemble a wonderful team that shares his ideologies and principles when it comes to negotiating foreign affairs, but someone who is just straight up not compromised by any Ukrainian conflicts of interest. So that's, I think, very important to remember. Like you always say, I think we agree on this. President Trump is really spectacular. He is Mr. Art of the Deal. And with him, you always have to remember that sometimes he says things not because he actually necessarily means them, but he's bringing people to the table. He's bringing people together. And that's how you get better concessions. But I think people should really keep an eye out for the idea of auditing the Ukraine funds. We know Zelensky came out and said, I only got 77 billion of the 200 billion that our taxpayer dollars were going to support. So I think that's what we really need to be focusing on, because I think there's going to be some criminals, some protests that need to be happening.
Absolutely. Well, Natalie, we'll keep in touch closely with you to find out all that's going on in the White House there. Thanks, as always, for chatting to us. And, of course, people can see you on War Room, on Steve Bannon's War Room. Thanks so much, Natalie.